our capital territory of Vitae. Now, we have a lot of work to do. We purchased capital territory of Vitae from the United States state of Alabama in the year 12,022. That was 2 years ago, just about. Now we are entering 12,024, which will mark near 2 years since we purchased it. And in the last year in between, we have been effectively financially exiled from our lands due to long distance of traveling and the funding required to develop it. So that being the case, we have been strictly trying to figure out a way forward for this year in processing what we have and being able to output a much more rapid growth. So again, thank you all for being here. I'm primarily going to be using this stream to talk about a few fundamental ideas for our development over at Vitae, and those are going to be the ideas of developing a food source, so our garden, which we tried to start this year to very minimal results. As well, we're going to be talking about how we're going to get power out at Vitae, our steps for gaining a small amount of power initially, and then potentially working with the state of Alabama, and eventually trying to wean ourselves off to the point that we are completely off grid. So that's going to be a big topic discussed. We are also going to be talking about manufacturing out at Vitae, because while we're trying to raise our own food and deal with water, which will also be brought up, power, the other thing that we're going to need to talk about is finances. So like I said, this past year, we have been effectively financially exiled from Vitae simply because it was so costly to go there on a routine basis and to ensure that we were safe getting on and off of the property with no driveway developed. So at the start of 12,024, we are going to be starting our development big and strong with our driveway installation. As of right now, if everything goes according to plan, which it never does, we should have our driveway installed in January. That means that as we move forward into the months, starting spring, leaving winter and starting spring, we will be ready to go to start planting. And that'll get us into our gardening. But real quick, I want to go ahead and say hi to everyone here. For those of you watching at home after the fact, trying to enjoy the process of the stream, I appreciate you being courteous with me during these parts. For those people, everybody on the live stream, thank you guys for liking. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to try my best to do as much talking about the topic as possible with minimal reading of comments. We'll go ahead after the major body of the discussion to talk about people's comments and questions and bring up ideas. I know one of our newest citizens, Arjun, has actually brought up a number of good points about this development, but there are a lot of stuff to get into. Real quick, Republic of Strata, great to see you. Chad Cook, great to see you. Noble Stan, as always, great to see you. Aaron, great to see you as always. Master Dionite, thank you so much for joining us. We have a good number of people in the stream tonight. I do want to make an announcement real quick. Oh, also, Republic of Decide, great to see you. Thank you so much for liking. UMM, thank you so much. And for being in our Discord. There are a number of people who say in the comments, yo, we're in the Discord. Thank you guys for being there. Y'all are helping us to develop not only through these streams, but also in the background. You know, all the people who are a part of our Discord, they're not just keeping up with what we're trying to do. They're actually behind the scenes when we're not live streaming, when we're not putting out videos, giving us ideas, teaching us things, collaborating with us to help us grow. So thank you to everybody who's been doing that. As always, TRC, thank you for being here. TRC, if you guys didn't know, is our brand new citizen in the Empire of Aeternia. He is the most recent person to achieve and earn a full citizenship in the Empire of Aeternia. Thank you so much, Arjun, for being here for us for years in this community as of this point without having received a citizenship. Thank you so much for your dedication and interest in developing content for us, as you guys will see in the next few days. We have been really trying to push for growth here, and people like Arjun have been a part of our community for a long time. Grinding away at that and helping to make Aeternia what it is. So thank you so much for being here. And again, everybody, great to see you as always. If you're from another Micronation, welcome to Aeternia through the internet connection that we do have. For everybody who is here as a citizen, great to see you as always. Thank you for being here and spending time with our community. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So that being the case, tonight, Arjun and I were talking about Eternian development, specifically at Vitae. As a new citizen, he has questions about what we're doing and how we're trying to grow, things that we may not have thought of, things that, he can provide as great support for us. And so one of the first things he brought up was, hey, is Eternia trying to do anything with power development out there? As I'm sure you guys have seen, if you haven't seen some of our videos developing Vitae, it is a bare piece of land. It is something that is wooded. So not only do we have to clear trees if we want to develop in places, which we're trying to do minimally so that we don't make it too don't destroy the natural habitat too much. But we are having to do some of that clearing so that we can develop housing and things out there. But other than that, it is a completely bare piece of land that we haven't been able to do anything with. So Arjun brought up this great point of, hey, I see Vitae is so barren. What about power sources? Have you thought about that? One of the two of the videos that we sent Arjun in response that I was talking to him about were videos detailing our start into the development of a solar generator system. So that includes solar panels and a battery bank of lithium ion, of lead acid batteries that we've been working with primarily to be able to create a small generation system. We haven't tested it yet as far as actually using it for power, trying to gain the power from it. We've just done testing as far as making sure that our voltage stays steady, making sure that we can charge it up to a decent percentage of its storage capacity, and making sure that that actually maintains a charge while being outside and being left in the elements. So that all being the case right now, I think we're maybe up to the point where we can charge a cell phone with it. It's not a ton. This is a bank of, I think, 10 or 12 lead acid batteries that are connected up. Again, these are old recycled batteries. These are batteries that are toward the end of their shelf life. And so in doing this, we are trying to experiment with what size we need for developing Eternia and how we can, developing Vitae specifically, developing the capital, and, starting off with a population of 2 with Tiffany and I, and then continuing to go forward. We really need to know a cheap way to get these materials to continue to grow the solar generator. And so one of the things that we have moved forward with is starting to look at lithium ion batteries as a replacement. As far as our newest video on the development of our solar system, I would recommend checking out that. Right at the end of our newest video on it, I think it's called DIY solar power or something like that. We end up talking about an improvement that we have to make in our storage capacity. And so we start messing with lithium ion batteries. Lithium ion batteries, of course, are very dangerous, so you need to be very, very careful with them. But we've been collecting them from small vape pens and things like that, that we can use to string together these very small lithium ion batteries that have very, very high energy density. So like I said, we may be able to charge a cell phone right now with these old lead acid batteries, and these are pounds and pounds and pounds of thick car batteries that are sitting outside. And so for all of that weight, all of that volume that's in our way all the time, that's not a ton of energy density. We're able to charge a cell phone, great. If we maintain the system really well, and if we keep everything right, we have the power to charge a cell phone. That's not that crazy. For example, these lithium ion batteries, on the other hand, are able to do a very similar thing, which with much smaller volume. So, we're working with now maybe 10 or 12 of these lithium ion batteries that are that big, and they're getting to that point. I don't think they're able to fully charge a cell phone right now, but maybe get it to 25-30%. And that's in an enormous downscale from the lead acid batteries. So right now we're still going to be developing and working on that for a while. It's not ready to throw out to Vitae, but we're trying to work with these technologies and kind of experiment with this stuff so that at very least when we get out to Vitae, we have something to supplement ourselves, and we'll have more updates on how we're going to make that more practical for that development as well. But as well, it is important that we continue to look for other methods for gaining that power that won't be able to be fully developed right away. So, we're not going to be able to be fully off grid immediately. We don't have the finances to be able to support buying a ton of lithium ion or lead acid batteries, or even the solar panel capabilities to be able to generate more energy than we would consume on a daily basis. So all of our efforts right now in solar generation are going to be to take some of the weight and expense off of us, and minimize the amount of electricity that we're using that isn't our own. That being the case, we still will need extra from somewhere. And where are we going to get that? Well, the one benefit about our property, despite the fact that it is not connected to a local sewer system or water system, which means we have to dig our own well and our own septic tank, which will be expensive investments in Vitae, we will have the benefit that we have power poles right next to our territory. So that means that the city will, in fact, hook up electricity to Vitae. And so through a local power company, just like anybody else, we can pay for power if we choose to. The benefit is, while we're paying for this power, we are able to slowly save up and increase our solar generation capability, so that eventually we no longer need city power, except in the wild circumstance where there's an emergency or something. Most of the time, we should have ample power at eventually. That's the goal. Anyhow, so that's kind of projecting out how we want to develop our solar capabilities and how we want to develop our electrical generation capabilities. There's more things that we can do to improve that and make it more efficient, scale it better, and get the materials from cheaper. But that all being the case, those will be for specific videos in the future detailing the power generation system. So if you're interested in that, check out the videos we've already done on it at some point, and check out some new ones. Moving on, we're going to be talking about developing our garden as well. That was the other thing that Arjun brought up. That is a really, really good idea. He brought up developing a greenhouse for us. Now, a greenhouse would be nice because it would trap additional CO2 and also sunlight, heat just in general. It wouldn't trap the sunlight, but it would trap the heat from the sunlight, from the UV rays, in a little plastic bubble effectively around our plants that would allow them to grow quicker and have a more consistent environment to develop in. One of the main issues that we had this year with developing a garden out at Vitae was the fact that we didn't have enough, enough fertilizer and enough sunlight to really get those crops growing. We also started at the end of summer, at the beginning of fall. So while we should have, if we properly took care of these plants, been able to harvest and see development more so than we did this year, we really, like I said, we're basically financially exiled from Aeternia, from Vitae, excuse me, for the longest time this year. So now that we've started to get back out there and started to be able to do so with more regularity, we will actually be able to monitor the growth of the plants and hopefully do more for them overall. But some things that we can do to ensure that and to help fix the mistakes that we see happened, even leaving the plants all by themselves for months. The big mistakes that we had were inconsistent watering, of course. If you're only out there every once in a while, they're only going to be watered. These plants that you're developing are only going to be watered when it rains, which isn't so bad if you also couple that with decent sunlight. However, Vitae is a very tree-dense area. It's a little crop of forest, so outcropping of forest. So that being the case, we actually have to clear away some upper branches and maybe even cut down some entire trees at Vitae to make way for sunlight to hit on our crops. That sucks for us. We don't really want to cut down our trees. We don't really want to thin out the forest any more than it is, because it's only 3.3 acres. That's a lot, granted, more than we've ever developed or done anything with in the past. But at the same time, that 3.3 acres, when you look at it from all sides, is not super covered. Those trees are the things that give us kind of separation from our neighbors. And so as well, it just gives it a more natural feel. It helps to connect it to wildlife and the environment. So when we are cutting down these trees and doing the things that we will to make way for our crops, we want to make sure that we are still starting to take care of the land more and more, that we're not just chopping down trees, walking away and saying, okay, see you in 6 months, hope something happens. It's probably going to have a negative effect. But if we take these resources, cut down a few trees, really give our crops some space to grow, and potentially doing kind of terraced farming a little bit. We are on the side of a hill, so being able to have a direction that we know that the sun is going to come up, or as its trajectory over Vitae moves, it will provide more sunlight across this hill and actually provide these terraces with enough sunlight throughout the day. And as well, it's convenient because being on the side of this hill, we will have water runoff from when it does rain that it can flow naturally over our terraces and provide them extra water. But in general, the main thing that is going to impact success or failure for our crops this year is how much we can be out there, how much we can consistently monitor what's going on and adjust things as needed. Again, if we were able to do it even like once a week, it wouldn't have been, we would have had 2, 3, 10 times the effective growth in our garden than we did this year, simply because we left it for such long stretches without sunlight, without water, without nutrients. And that's a recipe for failure. So as we move forward, our big plan is trying to be out there more frequently, trying to, before we plant, make sure we have a nice open clearing for sunlight to come in and give the most opportunity for these plants to successfully germinate and start growing. And then as well, consistent watering, actually setting up a system so that even if we're not out there, we may be able to get consistent water to these plants. And we have some ways that we're going to be developing for that in the future as well, to get into the nitty-gritty later on. But we have methods that we'll be able to do to provide extra benefit there, and even to hopefully provide some manure, some fertilizer, and some nutrients. So that all being the case, that kind of covers our development with our garden. Of course, getting into what we're going to be planting next year. Planting next year is a great question. A lot of it will probably be holdovers from this year's attempts. So again, going onions, lettuce, kale, cucumbers, carrots, things like that. Maybe introducing some new things. Arjun brought up that he may be able to supply us with things like beans, which would be wonderful. So we also have friends, neighbors, and stuff who grow tomatoes, potatoes, things like that. So this year, I think, will be a big attempt for our garden. We're probably going to, in addition to having done our first crop, actually try to expand the garden a little bit, do a little bit more there, and see what we can get for the time we're going to dedicate this year. So we have all that kind of covered and talked about. So we've gone from, getting power out there, which for a lot of our needs currently, our solar system and its next couple iterations, the things that we'll do to it to get a little bit more power generation, a little bit more storage capacity, that will help us immensely out at Vitae, and we'll have plans for that. But as well, going into developing this garden and providing us food, we're now starting to hit a checklist of like, okay, Vitae is becoming more survivable, right? It seems like all of this past year in 12,023, a lot of the development dealt with, oh, dang, we've never done this before. We're trying to figure out how to go through this and this and this part. Oh, man, we don't have the finances to develop this part. So, we got to figure out what else we can do to get a little bit here and a little bit there. And we've slowly been accumulating resources out of Vitae, slowly been learning out of Vitae what it is that we need to continue its development and come up with a proper strategy. Of course, strategizing is always beneficial and always helpful in any endeavor that you're doing. I'm going to spill some Gatorade on myself, excuse me. Let me open this real fast before I spill even more. And I will continue talking to you guys in just 1 second. Yeah, okay. So the issue with this development is the fact that we really didn't have a strategy. We went out there this year and we tried to understand what we were doing. The good news is it gave us the ability to go out there and try and fail and try and fail. It gave us the insight of really trying to focus on understanding the details of our landscape. So understanding what naturally does grow out there, understanding what it is that, the sloping is going to do to affect us, how, again, water runoff and stuff moves throughout the land, the actual boundaries of our land, and how we want to start to section out pieces of it. So as Vitae continues to develop, we're not only just increasing our resources, and increasing our resources is our strategy. We are now increasing our resources and then saying, and we have a developed plan in the background for where these resources are going. So that means a lot of development into Aeternia's long-term strategy, if you will, the next 5-10 years. That's really going down into what it is that we're doing for this year. So a lot of this continued development is going to be checking those boxes for survival, which means once we have our culvert, our head walls, our full driveway developed, hopefully sometime in January, that means that we are going to be directly ready to start pushing forward on the RV. Now, the RV checks a lot of boxes for us as far as hitting those essentials, because with the RV, we effectively have like a stat bonus on all of our stuff. So if you're like playing a video game, right? Let's say you're playing like Civilization, and you have to, this is kind of a weird one. There may be a better strategy game out there for this example. So let me know if there is. Maybe, oh goodness, there's like a Mars development one. There's a whole bunch of them. Anyway, if you're trying to develop like a city, a civilization in a strategy game, you may have these different stats: food, water, electricity, population, so on and so on and so on. We are trying to make sure that each of those stats hit a minimum level for us to have a population, a sustained continuous population of 2 out at Vitae. That means that Tiffany and I can comfortably live out at Vitae all by ourselves, have everything we need to continue developing Aeternia and to benefit ourselves enough to stay out there reasonably. So what we're going to try to do with that is to figure out ways that make it easier for us to boost those stats, because right now they're all basically at 0. So one of the great bonuses that we have is in developing this driveway, we can now bring things out onto Vitae, larger equipment, multiple people. So, instead of just having Tiffany and I go out there and work a little bit with our car parked on the side of the road and then try to continue to develop slowly over time, we can now not only pile our car full of people, we can also have multiple cars follow us out to Vitae. We will be able to park out there, work as a large team, and get a lot more done with our efforts, especially when it comes to collecting materials. We collect a lot of our own, for example, pallet wood. We collect a lot of our own plastics and metals and things that we're bringing out there for this development. So the more space we have to do that, the more volume of resources we can store safely, and the larger volume we can bring in single loads. So it's cheaper for us to bring materials out as well. That all being the case, materials score going up real hard. And then as well, the RV. The RV is the thing that's going to be a huge stat booster for us, like I said, because the RV is a full, effectively complete dwelling. It's not a dwelling in the sense that we're developing these dwellings that will be these below semi-submerged structures, these little effectively tiny houses out there for our citizens, our residents. But right now, the RV is going to be like an emergency shelter. It has everything we need as far as if we can hook up to a pressurized water source, we have a shower and a bathroom. If we are able to have electricity, then we have a refrigerator which can store food and keep it cold, as well as just it's insulated so we can store canned goods and things like that, and feel comfortable with that. We can have it cleaned regularly. And so it is a sanitary environment for us to store necessities like food and water. So that means that immediately, instead of trying to start with this like bushcraft, how are we going to figure out how to make everything work? The RV, once we can check it off of our list, we have to check off the driveway before we can get to the RV. But the driveway gives us a huge resource stat boost. And then the RV gives us an even bigger survival stat boost. It's going to allow us to be able to ensure our security and our necessities out there at Vitae, because we will be able to go to sleep in a place, have a shower, bathroom facilities, and all of these different things without having to worry about not having a septic tank, without having to worry about not having plumbing. These will all be accessible to us. And so through the RV, if we fill up the waste container in the RV, the little small septic tank in there, we can always drive it to somewhere that's a special facility that you can actually drain your RV's tank at and then get back on the road. So we will have opportunity to start moving out there as soon as we have the RV set up. Now that does go to, okay, so then how do you get that electricity? For small, couple day camping trips out to Vitae, which would be enough to really help us get going, we could use the solar capabilities that we have now. Again, enough to charge our phones, enough to potentially run at some point small, lights, things like that. That will really be all that we need for a 2-day camping trip. Anything else that we have, we can add additional battery banks and stuff in the car. We can have extra things for, ensuring a little bit more of a luxurious stay. But we would be capable of running everything that we needed pretty much right there. After that, when we're starting to look to staying weeks and longer, we will just get a small temporary power pole out there. So we can call the electrical company, say, hey, we're ready to start construction out here, but we need a temporary power pole to start running, equipment and utilities. So they would hook us up a small power pole. We could connect it to the RV and start running it and living out there for, a couple weeks at a time, something like that, as we continue to develop. At that point, though we may not stay out there all the time, that would be enough to hit all of those minimum survival factors. If we can create a pressurized water source, which isn't hard if we have electricity because we can use a pump. If we have the ability to store food safely, most people don't have their own gardens. Most people don't have their own way to generate electricity or provide their own water. So we will be doing quite well out there at that point, because not only will we have been developing to try to hit all the requirements to live out there, but also we will have been prepping these systems that provide those things as well. So again, the RV gives us this baseline survivability, and then all of the things like the garden and developing our ability to collect rainwater, for example, will help us to start pushing further and further along to like self-reliance, sustainability as far as our connection to the outside state and the country. So this is a big stepping stone, because we're now roughly, I'd say, 2.5 steps away from long-term settlement out at Vitae. Again, driveway, which may be happening as early as January, gives us a whole lot of opportunity to have people out at Vitae. Next, we're going into developing the RV. We've already started to patch it up and seal it up to make it weatherproof. We still have a little bit of ways to go. There's still some leaking coming from the air conditioning unit, which is something we're going to have to check into. But that is the final source of leaking in the RV. And again, it's something that we can catch in a bucket. We don't stay out there, so it's not like it's super dangerous for us right now. But that is something we will have to make sure is sealed and secured properly before we even think about going at Vitae. So that's going to be a lot of testing, a lot of waiting there. So that one is pushing toward, latter half of the summer, or maybe even the end of the year if things get pushed back far enough. But after that point, we are into a position where we can stay long-term out at Vitae. After that, the only things that we need to do are supplementary, getting electricity out there, providing ourselves with enough money to start putting in things like our septic and our well, which again will require electricity and all these things. But that's upgrading. That's after we've hit that base minimum for surviving out there and staying out there, everything else is cake. Everything else is, how do we need to do this to expand properly, to start having not just Tiffany and I out there, but an extra resident, and then one over here, and then one over there, and maybe a family with 2 or 3 people in it. We can't put very many people on 3.3 acres, but we can put, maybe 5 to 8. So as we continue developing, we're going to be really, really careful about thinking for the future, for, again, those next 5-10 years. So that wraps up, I think, in general, what our strategy is. Right now, we can't look into things like things beyond that base survival, collecting resources to continue building the dwellings, collecting methods for developing methods for collecting rainwater, making sure we get the RV out for a nice shelter and just a boost to everything that we have out there, and then starting the garden to help us to subsidize our own food budget. In doing all that, we've hit survival. Now we can start moving forward to trying to make some money to do those better upgrades, those more luxury upgrades, and those upgrades that are necessary to bring our first residents out there besides ourselves. So that's going to be a big, big next step. But the step in the middle is, after survival, after we get all the things we need to survive out at Vitae, we have to start making money out of Vitae, because we cannot afford to continue to invest in larger and larger growth for Vitae until we can start to provide some consistent income. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. So we continue to develop there, and we're going to need to start to sell some of the things that we produce. So whether that is trying to pickle things for selling produce, if that's something that's valuable in our area, we find. As well, we may be moving into actually raising animals. So going into quail is a potential outlet for us, looking into harvesting quail eggs and potentially quail meat as well, trying to sell some of that if there's a market for it. Of course, we're going to keep expanding in that direction, hopefully getting some fish out there and a few other things. But that is all agricultural. We're not focusing that in our sales and trying to set a direction for that to be a financial goal. Again, our primary interest is in agriculture for survival, in the same way that we're, creating a system for our own water collection and eventually for having a well out there. All of those things we just think of as expenses for ensuring people's survival. So same thing with our agriculture. If there is opportunity for us to sell some of our crops or some of our produce that we develop, we would love to do that, but that's not going to be the goal in our strategy. A lot of people, I think, struggle with doing that, especially at a small scale. Farming for profit at a small scale can be very difficult. So trying to move in another direction, we will be continuing with the arc furnace, the metals refining, dealing with developing initially with our propane furnace. Eventually, once we have enough money, getting a larger upgraded arc furnace, like the small one that we started with, but able to produce at massive volume. And when we do these things, we are constantly going to be going around the area and talking to people about them. Hey, do you know that we have this garden out here? Do you know that we're providing produce? Would you like some? If you connect us with your email or whatever, we can let you know when we get a harvest in and when we start doing pickling, and we can try to get you on that email list to buy some stuff. We can deliver it to you if you buy enough of it, I guess, or ship it to you somehow. The same thing with our metals refining industry and our metals casting, trying to go around and find people who have specific niche items that they need made, hoping to try to branch out into custom orders. So, if your nation is looking for a custom metal to be made for a ceremony or for honoring a particular successful person in your nation, maybe starting a new military rank or something like that, definitely hit us up, because we will be trying to custom make more and more things. Even, coins, if your nation has metal coins that they're trying to get designed, we can design those and actually make those for you. They will cost money to do, but it will be something that's a nice high quality design. Well, relatively high quality design. If you need something super sleek, we may not be the ones for you, but we are going to be trying to hit that middle ground between reasonable cost and good quality for a lot of people. So that being the case, hit us up. We're going to be trying to develop that. And we're going to be looking into that not only for the micronational community, but beyond that. We're going to be looking at local stores, places that would be venues for different events, and trying to see if we can develop things for them as well. Potentially even local manufacturing places, but a lot of them have their own suppliers for a lot of their goods. So we'll see how that works. But both of those industries lead into a third industry, which is very possible for us and is limited in a lot of other micronations, which would be great. Tourism. This is not something that will happen this year, but this is something that we have been wanting and pushing for years. We want to start having events out at Vitae. And while we've always wanted to have people as visitors to Aeternia and to see what we do and how we live, it's going to be very difficult to start off fresh with that. It is going to be incredibly difficult for us to go from having never had visitors out at Vitae to, when we initially started it and purchased the property, to having had people out there just for construction purposes, just as extra support for us, and then trying to make sure that we have everything necessary to transition that into a business where we have, liability insurance and all these different things for people who are actually going to come and spend time and money out at Vitae, getting tours, meeting local Aeternians, seeing our development of our crops, seeing our development of our history out at Vitae, potentially coming to exciting events like bands and concerts, different celebrations that we have for Aeternia's culture, and potentially even for workshops and training and things for example, metalwork and blacksmithing. So this, again, is going to be farther and farther down the road. We started looking at what Aeternia needs to do this year for its survival, and now we're saying this is what Aeternia is going to be using and branching off from that survival to actually start thriving, to actually start making Vitae not just something that gives Aeternia a flag in the ground somewhere, but more so something that allows an Aeternian population to develop. One of the reasons that the Montevideo Convention, I believe, creates itself the way that it does, defines itself the way that it does, is simply because you need a permanent population and the ability to enter into relations with other states, which sounds very simple. As micronations, we jump on this idea and we say, hey, I've got a permanent population because I'm the Emperor of Aeternia, so therefore I'm the population. And the ability to enter into relations with other nations, I've got email, so I've got it. It's all good. And that's not exactly how I think those nations see that. They want something that is at their level. They want something that feels equal and equitable for them for the work that their nation is going to put in to collaborate with yours if they recognize you as another nation. So when micronations start looking at being recognized on a world stage, we have to start thinking about what it is that we really mean by developing permanent populations, developing the ability to enter into relations with other states. And I think that's actually a pretty high bar for other well-developed, established, recognized countries in the world to see your micronation as not just a micronation, but an equal country to them. So when looking at that and starting to try and figure out how that process works, I think we have to start raising our own bar for what it means to have a permanent population. So that's why in Aeternia, we're really trying to focus on these survival efforts. If we get everything covered for our own survival, then we start expanding the base level, the base quality of life. So that's a huge thing that Aeternia has pushed for a long time. That's our main message, is we want to improve the quality of life for as many people in Aeternia and in the surrounding areas as possible. So when we start this development and do all these things, we're having to start with, how can I survive? As the Emperor of Aeternia, if I can't survive on Aeternia's resources, Aeternia isn't doing very well. You then step to, okay, now how can myself and Tiffany both survive on Aeternia's resources? Okay, now how can myself, Tiffany, and a third resident who decides to move to Vitae, how can that we approve and appoint there? How can they survive, and how can we all survive, and how can we all make sure that we're covered and keep improving that quality of life as new people come in? So we have a lot of work to do. It's going to be a slow process. It's going to be an annoying process because we're going to have certain deadlines we want to hit, and then they backtrack and then they change. Also, thank you guys for liking the video. But in all of that, we are at, again, the cusp of another huge improvement. We've already hit some big milestones at the end of this year, with Aeternia reaching 250,000 views on this YouTube channel, which, thank you guys so much for that. 250,000 people have viewed the content on this YouTube channel. 250,000 people, well, not necessarily 250,000 people. People have viewed and known about and interacted with the Empire of Aeternia on YouTube 250,000 times. That is incredible. If even a fifth or a tenth of those people are actually individual people viewing Aeternia, knowing about Aeternia's existence, that is astounding. So thank you all so much. That being the case, we've gone from that and hitting 2.5 thousand subscribers to also having now $33 a month on Patreon. That's only by 3 different people. Eric24, Eli Mayer, and of course Gastanova. Those people helping us out means that we are making roughly $1 a day developing Aeternia. That's for everything. That is our full, consistent budget. Of course, sometimes we make a little bit of money here and there on Etsy through the Imperial market, but that's not a given. That's very rare that we get a purchase on the Imperial market, and most of the time our funding comes from Patreon. So with our Patreon being $33 a month now, it is only $1 every day that we have in our budget to work on and develop Aeternia. Now, we're not spending $1 every single day, we're saving it up, but that really makes us pinch pennies when it comes to how quickly we can develop. So we're pushing that boundary slowly but surely. We've started with nothing. We started not having land. We started not having the ability to even sell items because the items were too expensive to purchase in the first place to try and sell to you all. And fortunately, this community has supported us through that, has purchased some of our items that we took a risk on and saved up our own money to invest in. We've been able to continue to reinvest our money and your money into Aeternia to eventually purchase Vitae. And now we are at this point where we're starting to hit the rim of a permanent population. We're starting to be able to say, not only do we have this capital territory, but we're about to have 2 people who live on there full time. It may be a year or 2, but we will eventually have those people, myself and Tiffany, living out there completely full time, getting tourism out there, getting our necessities, including our garden, our electricity, water storage, all of that, potentially raising animals, doing all of that out at Vitae counts, I think, pretty directly as a permanent population. Not only is it a group of people who claim this area as their home and stay there sometimes, they're staying there all the time. And even still, this is just 2 people. So that permanent population, it's more like a permanent single resident. It's not really a full population. The population's minuscule. It's almost not there in comparison to these other large nations. So you got to think, to them, that doesn't really check off a permanent population. That's not really, if Aeternia is developing Vitae in 12,024, that doesn't check the box off for them. That's not enough. So we're trying to get more and more people. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is starting with these initial slow steps. So please give us your guys' ideas. Know that as we continue to develop, we will have more opportunity to implement those ideas. But for example, right now, with Arjun's idea about the greenhouse, Greenhouses are fantastic. They're a great way for us to develop, and we will be getting a greenhouse for our plants eventually. But until then, we have plenty of free options that we need to try and exhaust because we don't have the budget to develop our greenhouse right now. So we're going to try, clearing land um, um, and providing fertilizer and consistent waterings and things like that to maximize the amount of support that it gets that we can provide as of right now. If halfway through the year or, after they start germinating a little bit and growing, we can go ahead and purchase a greenhouse. Then we will immediately purchase and set up and start throwing up a greenhouse. And it's not that it's extremely expensive. You have the greenhouse material, which we already have some of it, but maybe not enough to cover the whole section that we're wanting to grow and to develop. And then going from that to actually putting stakes out there and developing those, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of decisions on where we're cutting costs and where we're needing to invest most urgently. And I think right now, even though, the garden is a huge deal, we get one big shot at this garden every year, or really two, because we can do one starting in the spring and going through the summer to be harvested, and then one, in the fall going to the winter to be harvested, or going midsummer to the late fall to be harvested. But that being the case, we are still in a real pickle when it comes to attempting that because we can't throw everything there. If we do, that's great, but then we've developed this agriculture side and not been able to finish developing to fully reside out there. And again, with the travel costs being so high for us to go out to Vitae, it makes it really difficult for us to justify that as an initial investment. So what we're trying to do right now as our initial investment is develop the driveway so that each time we go out to Vitae, again, it is much more efficient for us. We're able to bring more people, bring more materials, and potentially even start hosting events to make a little bit of money. And then as well, trying to develop the RV, which will actually give us the ability to stay out there regularly. So if we are watching over our plants, of course, having a greenhouse out there will be better than not having a greenhouse out there, but having someone out there who can watch the plants and take care of them every single day, or at least, every other week or something, will be huge for their development and growth as well as just the development and growth of the rest of Vitae, and as a consequence, Aeternia. So this is a lot of information to take in. We've kind of jumped around, but this entire video, the premise of it has effectively been to show you what our goals for 2024 look like. For 12,024. In this coming year of 12,024, we want to be taking all of these skills that we have developed, all of these failures that we've made, and the lessons that we've learned, and put them together as a fuel to be able to make the most calculated and most efficient development plan for this year possible. And I think it all goes pretty much toward Vitae, just different ways of utilizing Vitae. And it's big. That's, our capital territory, something that has been almost non-existent on the channel when we first bought it, to being kind of teased at and in the background, and something that's getting built to, but that we can't do a ton with, that's kind of ominously lurking, and everybody's going, get out to Vitae. Why aren't you out at Vitae? Vitae is the thing, Vitae is your foundation, your capital. Why aren't you developing Vitae more? And it's kind of back there. And then now this year, Vitae actually gets to step into the forefront of the videos a little bit more. We're going to be able to see a lot more of the progress of it, and we're going to be able to connect that to everything that Aeternia has been building to for years, starting to connect to all of our citizens who are scattered around the world and say, hey, we don't have everything set up yet, we don't have everything perfect, but we're getting there. Here's an approximate timeline of when we will start taking applications for residency in Aeternia, and in Aeternia and in Vitae specifically. We will open up the first Vitaean residency at so-and-so time, so start sending in your applications. We're going to start talking to people, start figuring out plans for what they would be doing out at Vitae, how much we could pay them for their assistance out here. Again, providing them a free place to live and making sure they have electricity and consistent water and all of that. Again, that's a couple years away, but we're there. We're getting right to that point where these things start to take effect. So we are not at any point that has been any different from any other micronation yet, but we are starting to approach the edge of what some micronations have been able to do. We're starting to look at, hey, we have been following all of these great footsteps, and there, as we have been walking, have gotten less and less footsteps the further that we go. The more that we develop, the more that we push forward, the more rare it is that a micronation has gotten to the point that we are. Granted, there are still a good many micronations who are, miles and miles ahead of us as far as development. But we're chugging along. We're getting closer to them. We're starting to see them. We're starting to feel like, hey, maybe we can get there one day. Let's see how we push. Let's see how we work. Let's see how we can eventually catch up to them. And it's cool to see the edge of that. It's cool to start to be at the forefront of things. It's cool to start to be making moves that are unique to Aeternia, and not just how did these other micronations do it, but really getting into our own. And I'm super proud of that. Everybody who has been a part of Aeternia from years and years ago to now, I think feel pretty proud of this. I can't speak for people like Arjun. I can't speak for people like Whitewind, but that is huge for us. Being able to slowly but steadily get to where we need to, for having that resonancy. So that being the case, this was the big overarching theme of tonight, just trying our hardest to grapple with the ideas of what happened this past year and how we've been able to transform it this year, for our plan, for our strategy for Vitae in 12,024. One of the things that we haven't gotten to talk about a ton, which is, again, one of these kind of background characters in a lot of what we do here in Aeternia, is actually the local community. Here in North Alabama, we have a number of large cities around us, and a number of really interesting, diverse cultures. And so as we have been developing, we have slowly tiptoed into learning more about the local community, and we have been able to kind of start to see where might be best to start our development and our tactics for recruiting. Of course, it is wonderful once we're able to start getting residents out at Vitae, people who live there, who say, I am 100% an Aeternian citizen, and I live and work in Aeternia every single day, and Aeternia is, a big part of my life. I, am an active contributor in developing this as my life's work type of thing. Though that's wonderful, that's pie in the sky, that's a large dream that's far away. For right now, what we're trying to focus on is this middle ground where we're getting close to it, but we need a ton of supplemental support in order to get there. So for our citizens who are scattered around the world right now, for our citizens who have a little bit of locality, and being relatively close to us, we're trying to create benefit. And the same thing for our allies, the people who are in other micronations who have supported and helped us. All of those people are a part of our community that we can utilize and team up with to continue to develop, so that we can race toward those goals that right now are 3 and 5 and 10 years away, that are the next big steps for putting in all of our stuff. That really just comes down to financing. So as we open up, like the chat died for a second, the stream reload. So let me know if anybody missed anything, or if anything weird happened. I think my audio is still connected. I think we're good. We're trying to utilize this time right here to connect with our local community, as well as all of our citizens and our allies, and figuring out how we can start to experiment with our connection to them as we get ready for increasing our resources 10-fold, 50-fold, 100-fold, in the next few years. We really expect to hit off with a bang, and so we want to know how to make that happen in as effective a way as possible for as many people as possible. But we've been going for about 55 minutes. Thank you everybody who's been here and been liking. I'm going to go ahead and step down off of my high horse, step off my soapbox, and say hey to everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. We have Sheepland saying hi. Good to see you again. Good to see you, Chad Cook. Whitewind, of course, always great to have you guys here. Kingdom of Letsia says hello. Great to see you. So that's the big idea, and I just really want to get across what it means for us to be going into 12,024. I'm gonna keep messing it up until one day I say it enough times and it gets stuck in my head and it will never leave. 12,024. If you guys don't know why I keep swapping between those, Aeternia uses the Holocene calendar. So the Holocene calendar adds 10,000 years to the Gregorian calendar to more accurately move the needle onto historical timelines, not just based on Western development, Western societal development and Christian societal development, but focusing on a more worldly, equitable approach to historical credit. So we actually start the calendar for the Holocene calendar closer to the development of the first large civilizations, thinking Mesopotamia, the Tigris and Euphrates area, about 12,000 years ago. So instead of saying it's 2024 next month, we're saying it is the year 12,024 HE of the human era. And so we ascribe to using the Holocene calendar, and because I have to write and speak every day in the state of Alabama using the Gregorian calendar, it is a little bit confusing for me to then jump back to using the Holocene calendar when I'm on stream and when I'm working with other Aeternians. But trying to step into it, trying to get better acclimated, and again, describe to you guys what we're going to be doing in 12,024. So expect to see an increase of our efforts on the Imperial market, because we obviously need more funding there. If you guys want to support us on Patreon for helping us to do what we do, making better videos, higher quality videos, missing less weekly videos. We try to do an edited video every week. During the semester, I have to scale it down a ton because I'm trying to get my master's. Developing that and trying to do it when we have like big projects out at Pate also gets hard. So it's once a week most of the time, and then sometimes it's once every 2 weeks. But we're getting pretty consistent. We're filling in the gaps with live streams and trying to support the content for you guys so that you can learn and follow along with us as we go. But that all being the case, if you want to support us, Patreon is a huge help for us, because right now, like I said, we're getting about $1 a day, which is a lot more than we've ever gotten. So thank you guys for getting us up to that point. But now we want to see if we can push to $2 a day, $3 a day, $5 a day, because the more that we accelerate our economy, the more we can invest in larger production, which means a further boost to our economy and a more stable Aeternian development. So again, credit goes to all of you who have helped. So everybody's hitting up the Holocene calendar. Let me check in on this. Excuse me, guys. Common era. I don't think it's appropriate to call it like, oh, once Mesopotamia hit, it was civilized era, and then before then, non-civilized. Like, it's accurate because we're saying Mesopotamia or whatever the Holocene. I'm not sure which one it is specifically pinned to, which civilization it's specifically pinned to, but that time, that era, we are defining it as the first civilization, so it makes sense to say civilized era, but it seems like that may have a problematic connotation, like it may be difficult for people to jump on board with. Also, that's there is the common era, which it would be confused with, which is CE. So yeah, there's a lot going there. Also, thank you guys for all jumping in. We have 11 viewers right now. You guys waited for me to get off my soapbox, and then he said, let's see if he answers my question. So thank you guys for being here. Please like the stream to help us out and to grow it even more. You guys all have good ideas on this. I think the reason that we chose to go with the Holocene calendar is for that equitable nature of it, trying to provide a less European, less Christian-centered view of the world for the development of our nation, but as well because it gives us some perspective on how long humans have been around and allows us to really understand that, we talk about the future and we talk about, like, I want to live like a Star Wars life or something. I want to be able to like jump in a spaceship and like fly to another planet and do all this crazy stuff and, be able to like heal myself and do, these fantastic magical type things, which I don't think anybody knows how possible or how soon in our development those things may happen. But we should treat ourselves as though we are living in those future times. Instead of waiting and wishing for a time that we think will be so far in the future, we should treat ourselves as though we are living in that timeline now and try to understand how we can push for those things better as individuals in our own lives and as a society as a whole. It's the same way that I dress weird as hell. You guys see this? This is my ascot. This is just a regular button-up shirt, jacket, and everything. And then I love to show these off. Bam, getting the fit check. I have my boots on right now today, so it kind of blends in, but these are actually black boots that go up to right here. All of this is my Aeternian leg wraps, Imperial leg wraps. Love them. Super fun, super cool. And so this whole outfit, if I can not run into everything, excuse me. I was going to see if I could back all the way up and show you guys the full fit, and I started bashing around and crashing into things. So we better not do that. That being the case, this is something that I've started to wear very regularly, almost every day if I can, but definitely when we're going out for major events or if I'm going to be in public often throughout the day, because, and of course, anytime I'm on video or live stream, because I want to show off Aeternian culture. I want to dress a little bit weird, a little bit differently. And the reason that that ties in is, one, because it helps me to define and remind myself that I am an Aeternian and that I am representing the Empire of Aeternia and its government, and that I'm trying to recruit others, show them potentially a better way to live, or at least the experiment that we are doing and how we live. And in addition, we are trying to show other people that it is okay to live the life that you want to live, to dress in the way that you want to dress, to be the person that you want to be, because life is short. You have no idea if you're going to live another year, another 10 years, another 100 years. You don't know if tomorrow is guaranteed, because it's not, unfortunately. So as we continue to develop and as we continue to go, we hope that we can inspire culture in other nations as well as in our own, where as citizens come in, they start to say, hey, I'm a citizen of Aeternia, and this is how I dress, and this is how I act, and these are the things that I do. And to see, as Aeternia grows, which of those cultures, which of those different elements of our culture show up more and become more popular and start to resonate with other people. Because it is incredible when we, watch all of these movies and get whisked away and read books and get whisked away to these fantastic lands with these cultures and these societies that are so unique and so intricate. And of course, we're mirroring our own societies with that. We take elements from other historical civilizations and we'll throw them into our fantasy novel, or we'll take ideas from different social thinkers and like experimentalists and stuff like that, and like social sciences, and taking their ideas and trying to implement them for like future societal, fictional developments. And in all that, that's cool and wonderful. What does it look like for the real world? What does it look like when people start just saying, hey, I'm going to live my life in a different way and I'm going to start pushing into new things? A lot of the time, that's where we see different eras coming about in their unique fashion choices and unique style for all sorts of different things. People love different eras because of that. You know what I mean? People love seeing in the 1920s and stuff like that, all the big crazy outfits, and seeing, in medieval times and like all the different wild outfits that people wore. Very different reasons for why people dress the way that they did. And of course, different areas of the globe had different fashion choices at that time, at those times. But all of that is just to say that we can do that too. Those cultural booms, those points of exciting times, and oh, I wish I would have lived during that period, or oh, I can't wait for the next like big crazy, era to come out where everybody's doing cool stuff. You make that. Your life will be whatever that is for the next generation. I think things sometimes can become fairly homogenous because we're all connecting to each other. We're all becoming more understanding of other societies and of our own society, and saying that we're not so different after all. So a lot of things blend together, which is wonderful. But at the same time, some of those things I think try to like box us in and say, hey, these are the things that are normal and these are the things that are not normal. We always have laws and rules and regulations that are there for a reason, but when it comes to things like our own culture and style and artistic expression, that should be to us. That should be something that you don't feel ashamed because you want to dress a certain way or act a certain way. That should be something that's celebrated and cherished. And so in the Empire of Aeternia, we hope to promote that, that people do decide to be a little weird and be a little different and take a chance on who they are, and showing the world what it is to be them really purely. And so when we continue to develop and we keep pushing forward, I hope that we inspire other Aeternians to come out with us and to have interactions with the public in Alabama and in anywhere we can go to. Another great point about developing the RV is that we may be able to start doing a little bit more with it as it becomes less and less necessary as a survival shelter in Vitae. Once we get a septic tank and a well put in and all of that, we really won't have a ton of benefit for the RV there, but we can always take it on the road, and we can always go and visit other people and pile the RV full of Aeternians and go and take a small road trip and go and visit people and bring maybe somebody who can help film for us. And, be able to show what it is like to have Aeternian culture to other cultures, maybe be able to do some trade with other micronations along the way. But this feels like Aeternia coming into its own. I've said that earlier in the stream, and it really is cool to see. I haven't been hitting up the chat a lot because I've just been trying to rattle off these ideas for people who want to go back and watch the stream later. But I'm trying to set this in as like this is another one of those points where you go back and look, especially for us. I'm going to edit videos in the future that I'm sure will include stuff like this. But if we look, 10 years in the future, and we look back to when was like a big jumping off point for Aeternia's development, like what really got them to the point that they're going to be at in those so many years, I think we're going to look at this as one of those big points on the timeline. Aeternia not only developing its ability to purchase Vitae, which is of course a big historic moment for us, having a capital at all, but now we have literally, again, starting at the beginning of next year, we'll literally have a road to the US, a road to Alabama, a road connecting Vitae to the rest of the world. And even though that seems, it's very symbolic and it's very, it can't mean that much, it really does. It really does. It is the ability for us to have visitors out there. It is the ability for us to start developing more fervently. And that all comes down to our 12,024 development, and in particular in our 12,024 development, putting in that driveway. So again, this is something, if you guys have followed our Ko-Fi page at all, links in the description should be. Our Ko-Fi page is something that we have been trying to get funding for a long time. We still never reached our goal for it, but we've just been able to privately save enough money to invest in the rest of it. But we've gotten very close. We have been able to get additional funding through you all to be able to start working on it. And now that we've just saved us of the money necessary, we have been trying to expedite this process to get it put in, because it will just start to rocket us off as we're able to stay out there more and more. and do so with confidence that we can get on and off with our materials. All of this to say, I appreciate you guys, and we're well on our way. Okay, multiple things. White Wind says, this whole outfit breaks everything. Yeah, that was me just a moment ago. I appreciate you, White Wind. You keep me in my place. White Wind says, AP, look back at my 725 comment. Oh, gosh, I don't know when the time of these comments is. This is going to be wild. Let me see if I can pull up the whole chat. No, it doesn't tell me when the time is. Dang. Okay. White Wind, if you can tell me, like, oh gosh, can you copy and paste it, or is it like I'd have to type the whole thing out again? Jin Z said the Orthodox folks have Anno Mundi in the year of the world. Hey, that's very cool. Master D Knight says yeah. Oh, Jin Z says so AP is using a new calendar. So what year is it then? 12,023. Yeah, yep. And we've actually been using that calendar for, I think, the last 2 or 3 years. We have had the Holocene calendar for a little while now. White Wind brought up his comment. Thank you, White Wind. Sorry for not knowing which one. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what, tips and tricks you found for helping? Because, I think it's really difficult. Economic crisis is something that can be really, really short term. Like, for example, oh, my car broke down and now I can't get to work. And that instantly spirals someone into an economic crisis. But it could be as small as like hey, all of my bills cost slightly more than I make. So at the end of the month, I'm always a little bit in the red. And I have X amount of savings, but like over the next 6 or 10 months, I'll slowly drain away my savings until there's nothing left. Those are also like economic crises, but they're long term. They're more spread out. They're not as immediate a crisis. So what do you consider in White Wind an economic crisis, and what is the extent to which you are able to help? Because any amount that you're able to help anyone is fantastic. That's commendable, and you're not doing it for any ulterior motive. You're just trying to help people. So that's amazing. But I'm curious as to the practicality of like, how much do you have to give people? How long do you think that will last if there are a few economic crises that you help to fix? It sounds cool. Tiffany's running in. Hey! Oh, she slid in the stream. What's up, Tiff? She's bringing me a candy. Thank you. Do you have anything to say?
What are you chewing?
Tortilla.
Okay.
Tiffany's Mescala. Is it fun?
Yeah, it's like right at the end.
Oh, nice. Have fun.
It's the Hallmark movie.
Got him. So then here's the question, everybody. What movie is Tiff watching from the generic description? I'll leave it up to you in the comments.
Could be any of them.
It could have been anything.
That's how they all go.
That's how they all go. Also, thank you guys for 9 views. We're jumping up. Ooh, 10 views. I did want to bring up last video we got over, last live stream, excuse me, last week, we got over 55 watch time hours. I posted that on our Instagram, and I think I might have posted in the Discord. Crazy. That's a huge record for us.
You got a sleeping cat? I have a sleeping cat on the bed with me when I'm watching the movie.
Cute. Yeah, we do have Shay Shay here sleeping on the pool table.
She sleeps normal. Mundo sleeps like he'll start out normal, and then he very quickly just turns into, and now I'm upside down and just sleeps.
Nice. He's stretching.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get you. He's trying to get you pet him.
He sleeps very weird.
He does.
Sometimes he sleeps very silly, like my home screen on my phone, where he's just
out.
Looks like he's in the middle of a like
ballerina.
Yeah, like dance, but he's just sleeping on his back.
Yeah, he's a big boy. I love you, cute.
Love you too.
Okay.
You have 2. There's one over there on that couch.
That is. We're finding all the cats in the room right now. Too many is the answer. Too many cats.
What, you have to walk them through sleeping cats?
That's true.
Or some Christmas ornaments. Whatever fits the mood, I guess.
Mm-hmm. You got to give you guys a thematic feel to the live stream. Cinematic.
What, I think
feel,
people
guess.
just like looking at sleeping cats.
That's true. You think the viewership will jump like a whole bunch of people if we just show a cat on the live stream? Like we'll keep
This
talking
one's
about
licking its paws, and that one's out like a light.
Mm-hmm. We'll keep talking about micronations, but we'll just show. We'll show just the cats. It'll be great.
Mm-hmm. But y'all have to get back there because if I stay away too long, then just gets worried and he goes, "Where'd you
And
go?"
he comes looking for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want him to wake up. I want him to stay asleep. He woke up when I walked out, but I always give him that 1 minute, like I'm coming back, but he never listens to me. And then he gets annoyed when he follows me to the living room, and then I turn around and am going
He's
back to
gone.
the bedroom. Then he goes like, he gives me like an annoyed look. And I'm like, I told you I was coming back. I don't know what to tell you, dude.
She's got beef with her cat.
Well, he understands me because he follows.
Mm-hmm.
He knows when I say outside, we're going outside. He runs immediately to that front door to leave. And if I tell him bedroom, he goes to the bedroom. He understands.
Fair.
Sometimes he just doesn't want to listen, and he'll give you an annoyed look with it.
Fair.
Stop.
Well, good luck. I hope you enjoy your movie.
Thanks. Gonna watch her. Don't let her.
Okay. Oh, he's coming to get you, Tiff. Go get him. You gotta go take him back. He is. You gotta take him back.
I think he's giving me like a, you told me you were coming back kind of. He looks surprised.
Agreed. All right. Good luck. Psh.
Come here, buddy.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up our last live stream. We had 55 watch time hours, which is crazy. Right now, that jumped us from like 17, 20 or something. And now, since then up to now, we have like 18, 20. Like we've gotten over 100 watch time hours, I think, this week. And so we're talking about micronations, everybody. Me and guess Moondust. What do you have to say? White One says, so unfortunate they're missing out. They're missing out on the cat stream. See, everybody who doesn't know, they're missing out on the cat stream. He's got important cat wisdom. Hey, one person came back for the cat stream. You feel like it was worth it? Joining us, cat stream. The people who watch this afterward are going to hate me. Jinzi said, missed my comment. You almost missed the cat stream, Jinzi. Look out. Okay, I'm going to go back and check the comment.
You can tell him bye.
Bye, Mooney. Have a good day. Tiki.
See ya. He's such a good boy.
He is. Okay, jumping back into Jinzi's comment, jumping back into White One's comments, and then I'm going to continue to hype about how many watch time hours we got. We're getting like close. We're actually getting close to hitting 3,000, which is going to be a big deal. Not full monetization, but that's partial monetization. And then from 3,000 to 4,000 will be an aggressive like rush. Jinzi said, hey AP, did you see I'm starting a podcast for the UMPA? Congratulations. That's very cool. I did not see that. Have you like hit us only give $50 a month to them? And depending on how many people enter the said economic crisis, the 50 will be split between the citizens. Oh, that's really tough. This is very cool though. Congratulations, White One. Like being able to provide $50 a month to a group of people is a big help. As it gets subdivided worse and worse, it's small and it's why if you give it to 10 people, $5 a month isn't that crazy. But $50 a month is a big deal. Congratulations. I really am sure you are making a big impact on people's lives with that. There are plenty of people who are like, I just need like a few extra bucks to get through the day type of thing. So that could be huge. Whitewind says, till our economy is stronger, if that makes sense. And then said finding cats instead of finding Waldo. I appreciate you, Whitewind. Well, we did get to delve further into Aeternia's cat lore. Maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but one day when Aeternia is developing its next big industry and we're coming out and we're saying, oh, we've achieved this milestone and that milestone, and we have to give credit where credit is due, go back and watch the cat live stream, and everybody's going to be very confused and not know which one I'm talking about. But Whitewind, you will know, and we'll be giving credit to you. So this is that credit for that future time. Whitewind was here from the beginning, learned about the cat lore. Whitewind, thank you so much for your assistance. Everybody else who was here and a part of the cat lore, thank you for being here. You have done it. You have helped us to be what we need to be for the Empire of Aeternia through allowing my crazy Sidewinder detour into a little bit of cat lore. Jinzi said, nah, I've been here for a minute, so I got to see Moondust. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Jinzi. But yeah, if you can send us an email, I would love to check out the podcast at some point. Whitewind says, speaking of monetization, Flow, or Keula Republic, almost already has monetizations. He is 150 watch time hours away and 200 subs away from monetization. Hey, I wish them good luck, and hopefully we can get there soon. It's edited, uploaded videos, because our uploaded videos give us a lot more in views, which helps subscribers and stuff. But then the streams help us more with watch time hours. So it's a lot. Jinzi said, unfortunately, I have to go for now. But once I get the podcast up and running, I'll let you know. Please do. Good to see you, Jinzi. As well, we have started to drop down in viewership. So I guess I will be heading out here shortly as well. I wanted to stay for a longer time. I have a lot of exciting things to show you guys. And we have a few things that we're actually going to be doing tonight that will be big for future improvements for Aeternia and updates and stuff. But that being the case, I will try to get some of those in potentially as Instagram or as TikToks shortly. And next week's video should be up and running on schedule and connecting. Again, first to our patrons on Patreon. We drop our videos, our edited videos, on Fridays, for our patrons, and then Saturdays for everybody else. So if you guys end up being able to support our Patreon, or at least go follow our Patreon, we have 3 actual paying supporters for the Patreon, actual patrons. But then we have a number of other people who are still subscribed and following the Patreon for free. It's maybe 8 or 10 people or something. But those people as well get to watch little 30-second intros of our videos before the day before they get dropped. So, or maybe, at shortest a few hours before they drop. But even still, that's it's cool that there are that many people who are interested in just trying to get that extra tidbit. So if you're interested in that, you can always go and follow our Patreon for free to get those little teasers for the videos that'll be coming out the next day. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. I am excited to talk to you guys more. 1,000 views, and those couple of videos are 20 minutes long with thousands of views. Hey, that's awesome. It sounds like he made some very valuable content. That's incredible to be here with you guys and be continuing to develop Aeternia. Again, this moment here feels big. It's unfortunate that we don't have a ton of people hanging out with us this time as we did for our big celebration for 250,000 views. But for right now, we are in a situation that is going to develop into something much bigger for Aeternia, particularly with Vitae. So it feels like a big achievement. It feels like something that we have been waiting years and years and years for, that's finally starting to open up and starting to give way for us. That has been just the toughest push. We've wanted to push to having land for all these years. That's been our big stride, and our big goal is I like hope we get land. We eventually get land, and realize that having no connection, having no people be able to come out and utilize the land is almost as limiting as not having land at all. So being able to actually put that driveway out is the thing that makes the land accessible for us, makes our capital of Vitae actually become a capital that we can use, a capital that we can build upon, and the foundation for the rest of the empire's growth. So it's big, but I just want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for spending time with us. And Whiteland especially, thank you for being our ally. Thank you for being our friend and supporting us for all this time. I see we have 3 people on, so whoever else is watching and hanging out with us, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot. And I'm excited to come back to you guys next time. I can't wait to have another edited video out and show you exactly what we're up to. So thank you all so much, and Aeternia forever. Have a good night, everybody.